Okay, hey everyone. I wanted to give a bit of an update on my home lab learnings and ramblings. And for those that have been following, this might look familiar in that I've got two clusters. What does it look like? It looks a bit like this still in the bottom corner. So two stacks, little 24 port half height or half width switch, two storage bits. But in general, this is kind of what it looks like, or what the plan at least looks like. And today I just wanted to kind of give a bit of an update on this side. I'm using Omni as a SaaS way to manage my bare metal 5-node cluster, which is running Talos Linux distribution of Kubernetes, or Linux distribution that is focused on Kubernetes. It has Cilium as my CNI. It has Argo CD on there to manage and control my applications. We've deployed a few applications through that, and I'll touch on that. And then we've got this whole plan down here of how do we get all of this up and running in there. Over on the virtual side, just very quickly, I'm in the process of building out a K3S stack, an OpenShift stack, and a Talos cluster there as well. We've already got some managed SQL servers, so SQL Server from Microsoft, Postgres. We've also got some backup servers around Veeam and VBR. We've got a MongoDB replica set. We've got Pi-hole not being used as the default. And then we've got this DevOps management, which is where Portainer runs, which actually leads us nicely onto what I want to show. We've got a couple of hypervisors, blah, blah, blah. Right. Which brings us on to this. So this is the first Docker container that I've got running on that DevOps management. And this is a dashboard that I use. I think it's called Heimdall. Yeah, Heimdall. And this is all my home lab services. So since I last showed, we now have HashiCorp Vault, and I'll call out the ones that are managed by or hosted in Kubernetes or they're running on that Docker host. So HashiCorp Vault is running in my bare metal Talos cluster. Omni, that takes me out to my SaaS control plane. Argo CD is what we'll get into in a sec. Veeam Kasten is also running on that bare metal. OpenUI, again, I'm running this on that bare metal cluster. Now everyone's going to say, but you haven't got any GPUs. No, but this still works. It's just not, I don't put anything intensive on it. It's just, I wanted to see how it would run. So this is running Olama in a Docker, in a container, in a pod. I can show you what that looks like. What we have done is really up the game around data visualization. So I've been spending a lot of time in Grafana, but Grafana plus Argo CD, as well as Prometheus. And then I also wanted, since KubeCon, wanted to get into Persis and have a look at that. I also got a Jet KVM that is plugged into my physical desktop. I deployed InfluxDB, again, on that data visualization. We've got Kubevirt Manager. We've got still our virtual center for VMware. We've got our Proxmox. We've got our links to our storage, vSphere hosts. We've got Rancher running on that Docker container. We've got Portainer running on that. We've got Cups running over in a Raspberry Pi next in my other room. We've got the Dell switch, and we've got OpenWebUI on that same desktop as the Jet KVM is plugged into. This does have a GPU, and again, I can just use that as my local chat manager. So first of all, if we take a look in our Argo CD, you can see a few new applications that I didn't have logos for. Cert Manager, I'm getting ready to try and do something with my up the stack domain name, as well as like the certificate there, so that we only hit one ingress. Grafana, as we mentioned, Influx, as we mentioned, Kasten, as we mentioned, NFS location profile for Kasten, which will also be potentially, I'm going to do some stuff around using Argo to define my backup policies. We've got Kubevirt app of apps. So what this is doing is deploying 3 applications, some disks, some machine sizes, and a stack. And disks, machine sizes, and stack. We've got the Alarma one that I mentioned. So this consists of a web UI PVC. It consists of a service or a couple of services and the web app deployment. Pretty simple stuff. Persis, as I mentioned, Prometheus, as I mentioned, the Rook Ceph cluster, as well as the operator and the snapshot controller, Telegraph, and then Vault. I need to fix why that is coming up as out of sync. But yeah, all pretty straightforward. This is so anything changes with the values that are stored in my GitHub, and I can show you what that all looks like. So it's up the stack. So I can make any changes in here under apps, ArgoCD apps. You see here that so Kasten config, for example, this is the config that we have, and it ultimately just runs this config. So if we go to apps, Kasten config, NFS location profile, we can go and add some more stuff in there and get that up and running. But yeah, that pretty simple stuff. Blah blah blah. So what I wanted to get to is just to really use the rest of the video to touch on, well, one, I can show you this as well. So kubectl get namespace, not that one. Kubectl config get context. I have 2 in here, and I want to use this one. Kubectl get nodes. This should then authenticate me into that SaaS management control plane that I mentioned. Yep. No. Log in. All grant access. Good stuff. So they're the nodes, but what I wanted to show. No, I didn't. Yeah, this is what I wanted. So obviously we have Argo CD. We have CDI, which is part of that, the Kubevirt stack. Cert Manager, Cilium Secrets. We have our default. We have Kasten. We have our Kube node stuff or Kube stuff. We have Kubevirt. We have Kubevirt Manager. We have a monitoring namespace, which is where you're going to find all of the stuff that we're going to touch on. We have our Rook Ceph, which is our storage. And then we have our Vault, which I haven't used. I've just deployed. So let's now jump in to back into here and into Grafana. Now I can't take credit for a lot of this stuff, but ultimately, especially the Veeam backup and replication dashboard and the vSphere host, big shout out to Jorge de la Cruz. He's been years in the making of these dashboards, and I'll touch on them shortly. Now, let's bear in mind as well that we're using a very lean and secure distribution of Talos Linux that is very cut down and doesn't have access to absolutely everything, metrics, etc. You can do that. I haven't got round to it. But ultimately, these dashboards are deployed as part of the Argo CD application for Grafana, or for the monitoring stack, Grafana being the one that we're using here. And if I make a change in here, actually, when it comes around to auto sync, it will get rid of that. If I add another dashboard, that's also going to disappear when we auto sync. So let's have a look through some of these dashboards. So let's not look at such a small window. Let's look at the last 24 hours. That should bring us something. So like I mentioned, we don't have, if you look at the actual dashboard that comes with this, let's do last 30 days. And the dashboard that comes with it, I've got rid of some of the stuff, but things like network IO, etc. But you can see here that from a cluster memory, a CPU, and a file system usage, you get to understand what's going on, what can we see, what can't we see, etc. Very basic. It just allows me to see what my cluster is up to at this point in time. Proxmox, I added this as well. I can't remember where this came from. I'll try and remember to link, but this is very basic and I haven't really done any work on this. But I have a single node Proxmox server. This again is going to give, I have one, I think I maybe only have one VM. Yeah, I have one VM called an Ubuntu web server run on this. So you can see that it only has 16 gig of memory. You can see what the usage looks like on here. I need to work out what these are. I don't have a video card, so that's probably why there. I don't have temperature units to gather, but you can see here host CPU, host memory. Don't really do enough with Proxmox today. Then we get into our backup stuff. So clear caveat here is I work for Veeam Software, so I'm interested in the backup and the data resilience of our environment. If I lost something, that would be pretty bad. Although just a home lab, there is nothing running in here that I care about. If this all blew up, well, I'd be more worried about the blowing up than I would be the data. But you can see here, this gives us a snapshot view of what's going on, what type of jobs are running, what managed servers we have, the proxies that we have, etc. What does our capacity look like from backups, blah, 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 what backup repositories we have, and how many backup restore points do we have across there. Pretty simple stuff, but good to see that. Then from a Kasten point of view, so Kasten is deployed within that same that bare metal Kubernetes cluster, and I'm getting this information from the Prometheus that is deployed in there. So if I was to go kubectl get pods under Kasten, and you'll see in here that we have a Prometheus. So we're basically getting that data from the metrics from here. I'm pretty sure that those metrics are also stored in they are in that. So what this does is this gives us some CPU resource usage, some memory consumption, gives us our applications. Again, I've not really gone into the configuration here. What's being used, I basically have 10 applications that I'm not protecting. We can go drill down into more of this. I haven't actually looked. But this is the off-the-shelf. When Kasten did ship with Grafana, all of this was all included and you would just have to hit a button and off you go. I'm not really doing anything. So as we start to do stuff with that Kasten deployment, we'll start to see some more information. Then I went off and used Telegraph to pull in data into our InfluxDB. And again, this is one of Jorge's dashboards. So I have 5 ESXi hosts within my cluster. So you get a quick overview of our hosts, how long they've been up, hopefully quite a while. And you start to see what that spread looks like. How are they, you can see that my CPU utilization across them are pretty low, but then my RAM utilization across them is quite high. If we look at around just under 80%. That one's a lot lower. So we probably need to run some DRS on there. But a good way of like you can see here, RAM usage 91, 92, 44, 83. Yeah, we probably need to do a bit of load balancing between that. But I haven't actually looked at these either, other than I want to see. I got these working, basically. So this will give me the insight as an overview of my whole data center. So I have a virtual center that manages my 5 physical bare metal nodes within my cluster. I I have 25 VMs and I have 7 data stores, but there's 5 that are local data stores, so we don't use any. You can see here that CPU usage is 13% across those 25 VMs and the 5 nodes, and the RAM usage is 77. So I didn't do the hard work here. Jorge and a few others in the community did, but you can start to see quite a nice overview of how your machines are running, what's going on, etc. Some stuff around virtual machine disk performance, etc. We can go into each VM, so you can see how long they've been up, some RAM utilization in there, so you can see this DevOps management. Remember I said that this is our Docker container. It gives you can see that we're using some memory in there. What else? What other machine? I've been doing quite a bit of work around these Linux DSKs, so basically writing some desktop VMs, but again, memory quite low on all of them. So what is using our memory? Or is it just that memory is allocated? There you go. So VM1 uses a bit, which I'd expect because that's our monitoring solution on that side that I haven't even configured really. We've got a VBR server. We've got, what's this one? So then I've deployed our appliance, our new V13 beta appliance, Veeam Appliance 1 and Appliance 2. We've got our vCenter server. And we've got a Postgres box. I don't see any Mongo. Maybe I deleted them. No, here we go, Mongo. They're not doing anything, so makes sense. And then data store usage. I really only have one NFS data store that I then present that to my vSphere environment. You can see that it's just under 5 terabytes, and this is just pure NVMe storage in that NAS. No, it's not NVMe, it's SSD. Equally, you see these local, that's basically where the operating system, and there is a bit of free disk there. Pointless looking at that. This is the important one. We're using 1.3 terabytes, and we've got just over 3.5. That's pretty much all we're getting. So, yeah, basically, from this, we are, let's just find Grafana. Here. So you'll see here that we are, in fact, it's probably easier to show you on here. So if I go to apps and I go to Argo CD, and I have got in here Grafana somewhere, which is our app. We state our values in here, and then it says what are the data sources that you have. So I'm using Prometheus. I'm using the K10 Prometheus as well that we have. So this one is what I believe we're getting the information around our Kubernetes node. This is what we're getting from Kasten, and InfluxDB actually has a load more other stuff. Bad practice, don't be like me, hide these away. That's why I started to put Vault in. Remember, I don't care about any of this stuff. So it's not important to me. And then we get our dashboards. Now you can see that I have all of the dashboards then locally managed. So if I wanted to change anything that, say, Jorge put into his, I can make that change locally, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. So I have a folder called Grafana Dashboards, and then under here, this is how it's taken from the catalog, so that at the point of when I'm using that. So all of them can be modified by me versus having to rely on the community to update them. Kubevirt wise, I'm not going to go into too much, but we're seeing a massive hype about this. I haven't actually seen Kubevirt Manager before, but so I was intrigued to actually see what sort of central management do we have in comparison to, say, something like a virtual center or an SCVMM within Hyper-V. What can we do? So you can see here, just off the top, the initial dashboard tells me that I've got 5 Kubernetes nodes. I have no virtual machines today. Maybe that's another video. I have no volumes. I have no VM pools. I have 30 CPUs, I have some 150 odd gig of memory, some storage, etc., available networks, blah, blah, blah. Right, so you get to see that if I then drill down into these, and again, we'll do a deeper video on this, but you can see, right, I can go and create a VM on Talus Node 1, or at the bottom here, I can go and create another one. I haven't been through this yet, so I don't think it's good for me to show that. I create these as part of the Argo CD, so again, I need to work out why these are important. Equally, data volumes. I have some ideas around this that I want to explore so that I can then share that in a video, in an upcoming video as well. So yeah, I think with that, hopefully that gives you some insight into where the home lab has been going. Yeah, hopefully that was useful. I think I'd like to do some work around, a bit more around Omni. How would I get started today in 2025 with Omni and Talus? Potentially on vSphere or as a virtual machine if need be. Potentially on Proxmox as well. I think there's some interesting stuff that we can touch on being custom. Maybe we go deeper into Argo CD, but yeah, hopefully that was useful just to ramble on about the home lab and what we're up to.